Okay, that's the right orientation. That's correct. Hey, everybody, had to straighten out a technical difficulty, a technical issue, but did so, and hopefully everybody will come back. This was a incredible day, an incredible night, I should say, on Monday Night Football, and for one, Lamar Jackson. One moment, please. Uh, one moment, please. And refresh. And refresh again. Trying to get this clear as I can, clear as a bell. Not cooperating. So hold on a second here. Got another idea. Hey everybody, hold on. Okay. Let's see here. It seems to be clearing up. Testing. Ah, there we are. We're here. Okay, cool. Yay, all right. Welcome. Okay, now we are cooking. Lamar Jackson had himself what can only be called one heck of a day. And that's putting it mildly. I think it's more appropriate to call him one heck of a night, because against the Los Angeles Rams, the Baltimore Ravens proved that people should maybe relax a little bit in talking about that whole deal regarding the Patriots and the 49ers in the Super Bowl, because the Ravens have on their heels, the Patriots have on their heels the Baltimore Ravens. And the Baltimore Ravens have just vanquished the defending NFC champions, the LA Rams, and they did so in blowout fashion, 45 to unbelievably. I mean, it's unbelievable that they held a team known for offensive firepower to a simply paltry, very low, very extremely low level of performance. And that's precisely what happened with respect to the Ravens versus the LA Rams. And in the process of developing the book that this history is being within which this history is being written, the 6 points that the LA Rams posted should go down as a testament to the saying, offense sells tickets, but defense wins championships. I'm gonna adjust that a little bit. Offense sells tickets, defense and running offense build championships. Defense and a running offense with a running quarterback builds a Super Bowl championship, because that's certainly the direction the Ravens are headed on. And I don't say that just because their star quarterback, Lamar Jackson, only in his second year says that. Lamar Jackson posted what, in my recollection, is the best single game a dual threat NFL quarterback has ever played. He posted 5 touchdown passes, 5. He had 3 in the first half alone. He was 9 for 9, no drops. He was efficient. No, he wasn't dominant in the sense of putting up gaudy numbers, but he was efficient in his execution of what he did, both running and passing. He was 15 for 20 for the game, 169 yards through the air, 5 touchdown passes, and of course, no interceptions. On the ground, rushing, he was the second leading rusher behind Mark Ingram. But both the totals they posted were notable. Mark Ingram was 15 carries. Think about this, 15 carries for 111 yards. He posted a 7.4-yard average and 1 touchdown. Lamar Jackson added to that with 8 carries himself, for 95 yards and 11.9-yard average, which means that every time he touched the ball to run with it, that was an instant first down. So basically, you could mathematically say, okay, he was good for 8 first downs alone on the ground, Lamar Jackson, forgetting the air. But then you add to the air game, and you find that this man is the best dual threat quarterback ever, and arguably one of the best quarterbacks ever. Just in his second year, you have to say that. I mean, there's this, my old saying is, hey, look, it doesn't take much to tell what is going to happen with a something, right? And that's certainly true here. A lot of people talk about how special Lamar Jackson is, and I have talked about that since before he was drafted by the Ravens and how he was being misdiagnosed. But Lamar Jackson is blessed with being with a coaching staff that appreciates what he can do and is jack bull determined to build around him and it and not ruin it, unlike what Mike Shanahan did with RG3, who, in almost a symbol of the NFL's recent past and mistakes, but brought back to enjoy a resurgence of a style, right, is the backup to Lamar Jackson. Think about that poetic justice. Here, RG3, not too many years ago, you want to go back to 2012, 2013, 2014, and RG3 was literally under the thumb of then Washington Redskins head coach Mike Shanahan, and who was determined to run him into the ground. It's like he didn't see that he could be anything more than a runner. Shanahan drew up a couple of interesting pass plays for him, but they were very easily diagnosable, and Shanahan didn't go back to them or develop variations from them. And so, as Jay Will just says, Maher has 30 total touchdowns this season. Total. Which begs the question, do we tear up the record books with respect to a quarterback? Because he could achieve 60 touchdowns before all is said and done. If he has 30 right now, then you have to start talking about record levels like, okay, how do we evaluate a dual threat quarterback? Do we say if he achieves 50 touchdowns running and passing, do we put him on the same level as a Peyton Manning or Dan Marino? I think so. Or Tom Brady? I certainly think so. Because it's quarterback production. And we're at the point now we need to expand. I'm glad you brought that statistic to my attention. Thank you. Expand the definition of a quarterback because, well, we finally have a quarterback that can do both well. That's not fair to Colin Kaepernick, because Colin Kaepernick, barring some unforeseen circumstances, could very well have posted more gaudy numbers like this. And someone says, well, when Lamar Jackson gets injured, but no, I don't see that happening. And I don't see that happening for this reason. If you look at, and here's why I really bristle at that comparison. It's racist. And it's the idea that, okay, because they're both black and they play the same game, they're exactly the same kind of person, and therefore the same thing will happen to them. That is wholly unintelligent. And what it does is it takes away what Greg Roman has done as offensive coordinator. It takes away how any analysis of how they're actually playing the game on a per play perspective. It's just blanket. and it's illogical. And let me explain why. The Ravens, what the Redskins did not have, okay, was an offense that featured a misdirection that such that you didn't know if RG3 was going to get the ball or the running back. When they ran it with Alfred Morris, they were more direct runs as opposed to misdirection. And there was a tendency to try and get RG3 to run in ways where the defense expected the run, and he wasn't quite, because of the design of the play, he wasn't able to outrun the defensive backs. RG3 is not Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is faster than RG3, okay? But what adds to the fact that he's faster than RG3 is the fact that they're employing read option looks that, and Jay Will brought up RG3's history, thank you very much, but the Ravens are employing read option looks that the Redskins were not sufficiently, for want of a better term, educated enough to properly design so they could properly teach them. But now, you and I agree, read option systems are a matter of time, okay? So I don't agree with that at all. I think it's actually patently stupid, to be honest. I really do. And it's a continuation of an idea that, I mean, basically you don't want them to succeed for other reasons. You should just say what your reasons are, because the blanket reasons you're giving are they don't make any sense. I mean, to anybody who watches the game, they don't make any sense. The man just threw 5 touchdown passes through the air. RG3 never once did that. And so, having said that, my question is, did you actually see the game? Did you actually go back and watch the film of the game? And the answer would be no, because the man threw 5 touchdown passes through the air and then added to running. This is a true dual threat quarterback. RG3 was not a dual threat. RG3 could run, but he was not a great passer, okay? I mean, even Booger McFarland was making this completely unintelligent comment about how, he's like Michael Vick. Look, I've seen Michael Vick play, all right? I'm sorry. Michael Vick is not Lamar Jackson. Hey, Roland Dubs, how you doing? Michael Vick is not Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is on another level. He is on another plane. The difference between Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson rests in college. In college, hey, John, how you doing? In college, no one talked about Michael Vick, the runner. The passer. Everyone talked about Michael Vick, the runner. All right? And that was it. I remember the Florida State game, Virginia Tech and Florida State, and Michael Vick was running up and down the field. He was running. And when he threw, you kind of hoped that maybe the ball would get there, right? And then the talk was, hey, and I agree with Keith says, I wish Lamar Jackson was a Raider. I do too. But the talk was that, hey, if Michael Vick ever got his passing game down, he would be lethal. Well, look, Lamar Jackson had his passing game down at Louisville. He was already lethal, but there are people who didn't want to accept the idea that a black quarterback could be that good. You have a lot of stupid people around still to this day, okay? And it's about time we started calling it, because it hampers our ability to see the truly best on the field, regardless of color. For example, you've got, just to take a momentary flyer on this, Tommy Verdell, when he was coming out from Stanford, fast guy, halfback, but people started comparing him to other white fullbacks. That was wrong. Finally, we have Christian McCaffrey, and people are not doing that anymore. They're accepting the fact that Christian McCaffrey is a fast, great running back who can carry the ball 20 times a game gain 200 combined yards and be extremely effective. Let me ask you a question, and I'm not taking anything away from Mark Ingram, but can you imagine an offense with both Lamar Jackson at quarterback and Christian McCaffrey at halfback? Whoa, I mean, think about that for a second, okay? I would have so much fun with that. Think about that. I mean, that would be beyond stereotype buster. That's your Super Bowl champion offense right there. An offense that features just the current Raven offense and just bring in Christian McCaffrey. And Jay Will says Louisville had bad receivers when Lamar Jackson was there too. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so Bible study says that it's time for the Raiders to move on from Derek Carr. I'll get to the Raiders in a second. I think I'll blend that in because I did watch what I did was I used the NFL All 22, and then I went back and I can't easily show you what I want to show you in terms of highlights because someone at the NFL is really being weird about flagging videos in terms of copyright, even in terms of violating fair use legal rights. And so I had to once already go to Jeff Pash, who's the head of NFL legal, and say, hey, we've been through this before. I thought we had this resolved. And he goes, yeah, I don't know what's going on here. So I would rather not deal with that. And I'm just going to talk you through it rather than having you shift gears and show pictures and everything. I'm going to talk you through it and we can just go from there. But I say all that to say this, okay? I looked at every single Jets game from week 1 to now using the All 22, which I love on NFL Game Pass. If you don't have NFL Game Pass, please, folks, get NFL Game Pass. And what I did to make life simple, if you will, is I looked at the Jets defense to figure out how the Jets defense could go to a point where they were holding the Raiders to just 3 points. And basically, the answer that I came up with is not one that even I like, but it's in my face. And pure and simple, I just have to call it like I see it. The Raiders got outcoached. Pure and simple, the Raiders got outcoached. And now let me explain what that means, because as you know, I'll say, well, don't just say that, explain exactly in detail what you mean, right? Okay, this is what I mean when I said the Raiders got outcoached. The Jets defense over the last 12 weeks basically evolved from one that was rather loose in its play and used zone against teams to one that against the Raiders was specifically designed to stop Josh Jacobs, clamp down on the running game, play man for man. Play man for man, okay? And then use constant pressure up the middle. The Jets, for example, the Jets used a lot of what's called a bear look. In other words, a 46 defense. The nose tackle and two defensive end and defensive tackle on the center and the two guards, okay? They used variations of that against the Raiders. And if they weren't doing that, they were double A gap blitzing. If they weren't doing that, they were threatening the double A gap blitz and they were coming off of it, okay? All of those approaches were designed to keep constant pressure on the Raiders, knowing the Raiders are going to throw short. What the Jets' game plan was is, hey, look, we're going to force you to play a perfect short game, because we don't believe that you're going to have enough time to throw to get a ball downfield over the top. We're going to force you to try to do that. All right? So we're going to force you to try to do that. Now, the question is, was that the Jets' standard defensive approach? Up until week 6 of the NFL season, no. The Jets were playing loose, a lot of zone, a lot of standard, a lot of odd front coverages with just the nose, odd front fronts, with just the nose tackle and the end. Classic, what we call Oklahoma-style fronts. But after week 6, starting week 6 with the Cowboys, they got out of that. And they started playing pressure. And then as the week went on, they refined their pressure defense game. Now, as to what led to that, I don't specifically know, but I know that on film it shows up. If you look at the range of how they played their defense and what they did. Now, of course, they adjust their defense to the opponent. I get that, but even then, there's a standard personality that every team has. Starting with the fact that they have unique personnel to themselves. Okay, but in the case of the Jets, that was the case too. However, they made a tacit decision to be a pressure defense. But against the Raiders, they really turned it up a notch. Now, the Raiders didn't adjust. Now, how do you adjust? Well, call play action, throw deep to your running backs, out of play action, spread out the defense. Once the Raiders got out of their script, and the script was all wrong. Once the Raiders got out of their script, they didn't adjust. Okay? But if the Raiders were doing the kind of analysis that took, in other words, if their analytics department was really doing the kind of analysis I would have wanted them to do, which is basically say, hey, look, give me a full profile of the Jets all the way from the start of the season all the way to our last opponent, and then let me know what kind of adjustments they were making, because it gives you a better idea what to expect, right? And because what they pulled off against the Raiders was sort of the logical evolution of their changes. I'll read your comments in a second. I just want to get this out. And so on offense, the Raiders were really content to throw Josh Jacobs at them and really use a short passing game. And the Jets played man for man and said, okay, fine, we're going to clamp down on you. We're going to pressure you. We're going to clamp down on you. We're going to force Carr to move around in the pocket because we know you're not, moving him around. And we're going to make you pay for it. And that's exactly what the Jets did. And so it's exactly what they did. And so the result was the loss that was posted. It was a combination of the Raiders meeting a defense that was perfectly designed for them. And not only that, the Cincinnati Bengals had shades of that same defense. So all you had to do, if you were the Jets and you're saying, gee, how should I approach the Raiders? Just watch the previous game. The Raiders don't do a good job of self-scouting. And it's like, or let me take it to a deeper point, because it looks like they have some people in there who are doing a job of self-scouting, perhaps. But the coaching staff is saying, okay, we can't do this because it doesn't fit our personality. If your personality is that rigid, then you get the outcome that we see. The Raiders have to have a system that is more flexible and also more logical. On defense, you don't play a zone defense when your opponent's on your 11-yard line. They're playing a zone. So you know what the Jets did? Like any team that would prepare for the Raiders, they're running crossing patterns against their zone, knowing that they'll get these big holes in the middle. All you have to do is have your guy just slow down a little bit because it's a zone, catch it, turn up field, and he scores a touchdown. Why? Because it's a big hole, and the Raiders don't play a sliding zone where you have a defender going with the offensive person, when that person enters the zone. No, when that person enters the zone, hey, they're just untouched, man. So, okay, so it's a real problem. It's a real problem with the Raiders. It's a real problem with the Raiders. So I'm going to start reading your comments now because there's a lot of them. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to go back to Jay Willis says Lamar has 30 touchdowns. Los Angeles building designs really into the idea Lamar Jackson's going to injure or whatever. I read some Bible study stuff already. And Rolling Dub said that Vic had a strong arm. How you doing, ML Scott? Rob Iman says, we'll see how the Niners game plan for Lamar Jackson. I think the Niners need to concern themselves more with misdirection, with Mark Ingram going to their going off tackle to the weak side, because if they focus too much on Lamar, the Niners are going to have a long day. And also, I would be more concerned if I were the Niners with the speed of the Ravens defense. The only other defense that's as fast as the Ravens defense is the Seahawks defense. So the real key to this game it's not Lamar Jackson at all. No, it's actually the Ravens defense. The Ravens defense is really fast. Okay? The Ravens defense is really fast. And if the Niners don't play their off-tackle running game, it's going to be a long day. And I can't see Jimmy Garoppolo getting out of that game without a 4-sack night, at least. That I cannot see that. Okay, if it happens, hey, that's something to write about. They're going to have to move Jimmy around in the pocket. I think it's possible, and there's some approaches the Ravens do that I think make them ripe for punishment. Most notably, they are exceptionally aggressive. Exceptionally aggressive. So if I were of a mind to use a throwback pass or a halfback pass or some sort of trick pass, where I hand off to the halfback over here, the quarterback's here, I throw backfield to the quarterback throws, that sort of thing, that would give the Ravens a great deal of problems. Now, if your thought is, gee, you have to resort to trickery to beat them, my answer is, yeah, you do. Okay, you do. Roland Dub says, hey, ML Bible study says, I love Carr. He's okay, but he's not able to get us to the playoffs. And that's what we all like to see. LA says, the Jets offense burned us over and over again with crossing routes. Yep. And Keith Roscoe says, I have little faith in Carr personally. Keith, I wouldn't blame Carr. There's a tendency to blame Carr, but notice the title of this. Partially. NY Jets Gase outcoaches Oakland Raiders Gruden. So don't expect that you're going to just trade quarterbacks and get the same outcome. You are going to get the same outcome by trading quarterbacks. Don't expect to get a different outcome by trading quarterbacks because it's the game plan that's the problem. It's not Derek's fault. As Derek is always fond of saying, and will say again and again and again, I only do what they tell me to do. Okay? So, that's what he says. I only do what they tell me to do. You got it. And so Keith Roscoe says that. Rob Iman says, time to make Kaiser the second-string quarterback. That's not going to make any difference. Keith Roscoe says, but hope best for future. Who knows? Bible study agrees with Keith. Eric Raiders says, Raiders don't need another quarterback. Raiders need more playmakers to help Carr out. Let's be honest, Williams is really a number 2 wide receiver. Carr needs a number 1. Remember back in 2016, Carr had Cooper and Crab. I do, but I don't understand this mentality that says just focus on the player as if the player is drawing the plays in the dirt and running them on their own. I don't understand where that comes from. Is it just like, you see and therefore you believe that person is responsible? It's like the person can pull these strings and you give the people pulling the strings, no truck whatsoever. The game plan sucked. And the way the Raiders are doing this, all right, is, look, it's like this. When you play one approach, you'll get lucky and win against some people if you maintain that approach. But then, if you insist on maintaining that approach, you're going to find teams that adjust their approach to what you do and beat you. And that's the Raiders' problem. That is the Raiders' problem. I cannot look at the Raiders' game plan and see a great differentiation that shows me they're actually matching their offensive attack to what the defense is giving them. It's like they insist on doing it their way, this way, the short game. It's not reflective of the fact that they really do have a lot of plays with which they can use to exploit defensive weaknesses. So this is on John and his coaching staff. It's not on the players. All right? You got to be hard on the coaching staff. You give them credit when they win. Hey, look, give them the gruff when they lose, when they screw up. And this is a massive screw up on Gruden's part. Very disappointing because, I have to say, it's the first time that I thought, you know what, let me look at the All-22 and go back and just go through the entire season and see how a team evolved, right? And it goes with something I haven't done that in a long time, but it goes with something that I've said with respect to why the Falcons had done extremely well in Dan Quinn's first year, his first 5 games, and then they just sucked down the stretch. And the reason is because teams, they looked at what the Falcons had done, and they game planned to stop that over the first 5 weeks, and they hit it right. Okay? They knew the Falcons relied on their running game. They put the clamps on the running game. They knew the Falcons had a long developing passing game, so what do? They blitzed them, and then they used a certain technique to get around their blocking style, and Matt Ryan was sitting on his keister a lot. That was Quinn's first season. What's going on this year? What's going on this year, frankly, is that the Falcons have put their defenders in a position where they're consistently, in terms of position and technique, out of position. And that's the problem, okay? So I want to get back to the Raiders and your comments. So anyway, Robin Dove says, only ran him 9 times, unacceptable. Keith Roscoe says, stop making excuses for Carr. Who's Lamar throwing to? I'm not making excuses for Carr. My retort to you is you need to learn football, okay? If you say a person's making excuses for Carr, my point to you is you don't understand that a person, in this case Carr in the offense, have plays that they didn't draw up, that they are to run. You assume that the plays are perfect, but how would you know? You don't know how to diagnose whether or not a play works or not. I do. So it's not making excuses for Carr. Or maybe you're part of the coaching staff, okay? But my direct criticism to you, Keith, is you don't know football. You know football, you don't make comments like that. Because and I'm going to say this, you're afraid to say, okay, maybe just to say you don't understand how to diagnose plays. I get it. Or draw plays. I get that. But say it. Say it. All right? Criticize yourself there. No, I'm just sorry. That's really impatient because it also stops any intelligent discussion about football strategy. It's like, well, it's all Carr's fault. Why? Well, I don't know. It just is. Okay, come on, get out of here. Bible study says, I didn't get to see the game yesterday. But seeing the score, man, something has to change and quick. Well, yeah. You can't reverse time. What has to change is their ability. It's the Raiders' in-game ability to change their game plan sucks. That's the problem. Rob Iman says, defenses are not going to stack the box on Carr. That's precisely what, because I went to the Bengals game, that's what the Bengals are doing. They were stacking it. Okay? The Bengals changed their approach on offense in terms of attacking the Raiders' defense, and they decided that they were going to attack directly our defensive ends, particularly our rookies, because they haven't yet perfected their edge defense run technique. Pass rush, good, yeah, all right. But there's a reason why the Bengals picked up, I believe it was 36 yards on their first running play to start the game, all right? So that wasn't luck. And they tried it again the second time, they gained 11 yards. So 36 plus 11 is 47 yards. 2 plays, that tells you that they're on to something. And that was the Bengals. All right? So Eric P says, I agree with you on coaching. I don't trust Olsen offense. It's not a matter of trust of the offense. Greg Olsen has produced some good game plans, okay? But the overarching problem is this insistence on being conservative and pointillist. And what happens is that they tried the same kind of short game against the Bengals, and it almost cost us. For a long time, it looked like during that game, if you remember, that we just might be the first notch on the Bengals' belt for the year. Remember that? Because we're playing the short game. We're playing the conservative game. And the Bengals let us off the hook because they didn't keep up the defensive pressure. And their offense was doing its own stupid things like, running as, I don't know if this was a gadget or if it was just stupid. But they were doing is, I'm just saying, just like that, just stupid. They called the same play twice, back to back in the first part of the game, okay? Then they called a variation of that play a play and a half later. So basically, out of 4 plays, they called the same play 3 times. And it didn't work. They were trying that lateral game, throw the out in the flats, and the Raiders were all over them because they had the proper outside position to begin with, the defensive backs, and they have the speed to catch you moving laterally. And they were playing this defense where the linebackers are 4 yards off and they're stacked and gives them good maneuverability, and defensive backs, okay? I mean, the Raiders were ready for that. And the Bengals did nothing to dissuade the Raiders from that approach. I was cracking up. I thought, you gotta be kidding me, man. And John Acosta says, how much do you think the Raiders offense is going to miss Renfro? Quite a bit, and I'll tell you why, because the one thing that, Rob Iman says that he thinks Gunther is likely a goner if the Raiders miss the playoffs. Yeah, but I think the Raiders have to ask the question, they have to diagnose themselves, because I think Paul does a lot of things well, okay? But what the Raiders, this is an issue of a lack of good self-diagnosis. At this stage of a season, you ought to be able, or you should have scouted yourself well enough to know what didn't work, what does work, and also how to fix something in the middle of a game. That is the Raiders' biggest weakness. They don't fix things in the middle of a game. That was the problem the year before, okay? So John, God love him, decided, hey, I'm going to rebuild my offense, redesign it. That was cool, but it solved part of the problem, all right? But it didn't solve the other part where he doesn't go in during a game and say, you know what? I'm going to not run this Josh Jacobs line buck play. Instead, I'm going to run him on a sweep with play action so that Carr is outside the pocket, throwing off play action, right? So that I can take some heat off my quarterback. I can get the defense flowing to my halfback. I can have a guy on the weak side wide open, okay? So my point is that, hey, Cowboy Wrestler, how you doing? I'll get your comment in a second. So my point is that it's the in-game adjustments. And see, this problem reared its head during the preseason. Remember Hard Knocks where, Gruden is yelling stuff at Mike Glennon because he's throwing an interception? And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Don't yell at the guy. Tell him in detail what he did wrong when he made the mistake. Because my issue is, if you can't tell your player how to fix what he did wrong right then and there, it's because you yourself don't know it yourself. That's bad. If you have to wait until you see the film after the game to know how to fix what is wrong, you know what? You're not going to win a lot of games because your opponents are doing that. Belichick does it. That's how Bill Belichick came up back against the Falcons when they were down 28-3 in Super Bowl 51. You hear what I'm saying? Bill was on the sidelines, making changes, changing blocking styles, pulling out plays, short passes they hadn't used in years. It was brilliant. He wanted to win, and he realized, I can't win with the approach I came in with. Because the last time he had that approach, where he was throwing those mid-range passes, the Giants killed him in the 2008 Super Bowl. I know I was there. I still have the video from that right here at Zenny 62, the final drive, where Plaxico Burress scored the touchdown. Right here at Zenny 62. It's been seen several million times now. Maybe 2 million. Whatever. The whole point is, Bill didn't want to see that film again. He said, not this time. And he engineered, and that's the proper way, folks. He engineered for his team. He set the palette. He set the artist canvas upon which Tom Brady painted his masterpiece. So you want to credit Brady with a comeback? Okay, fine. But I credit Bill Belichick as being the architect that built the building that Tom Brady made his comeback within. So, all right. Cowboy versus, I'm going back to your comments now. We're all emotional. I'm emotional. You're emotional. We're all emotional. Michael Aldrin says, I wish Gruden would have the team in New York sooner to adjust to the time and weather. He did it in London. The team got into New York on a late Friday. That's something I didn't consider. I think you've got a point there. Time is something else. Although, I'm not taking away from the whole comment about the game plan. But, because the game plan, the Jets were obviously well prepared for the Raiders. But, that said, would have a little bit more rest cause a tackle to have been shedded that wasn't shed before? Perhaps. I still contend, however, that what you tell a player to do via your game plan matters most. But yeah, rest is extremely important, because if you're too tired to execute, nothing's working. But I don't think that was really the problem, as much as anything. It's consideration, though. Roland Dove says we lack experience and talent. I disagree. Cowboy Wrestler says that Jets game was a joke. All right, no excuses. Michael Airline says Gunther can't adjust. And Cowboy Wrestler says, sorry for the typo, so mad about the game. Bible Study says, I agree on that too, Roland Dubs. I agree. Rob Iman says, Gruden should learn from Kyle Shanahan on in-game adjustments. Very, very true. Kyle's gotten really good at that. Rob Iman says, in-game adjustments are why the 49ers are 10-1. Eric P. says, Zen, I think to beat the Chiefs, we need to have our offense score points, keep the ball away from Mahomes, pressure Mahomes on defense and control Hill. I agree. I think here's the thing, though. I'm going to say something that I think the Raiders will probably never do, but I would do. And I would throw in it's a kind of a crazy Buddy Ryan double stack linebacker defense. And you've got two linebackers in the middle and a third linebacker like that in the middle over the center. And you have the defensive tackles here, right? And the defensive ends out wide here, right? But then I would, in the middle, stick a rover and just inject the rover in the middle. Okay? Because I could have a number of variations of linebackers coming off or going out. I wouldn't do it as a steady diet because in order to make it work, if you think about what I just told you, it means you're going to wind up with a zero coverage with nobody back there, all right? So it's something you'd use when you've got the opponent in their territory and you think that they're going to run off tackle one of those stupid ass, excuse my language, read options where they read option with the halfback coming cross buck and they try to throw to the slot, okay? What do you ask me about Hunter Renfrow? I'll get to that in a second. But my point is that the Raiders have to be more exotic in their approaches in terms of defensive fronts to be effective at this stage of the season, given what they're about to see. Because you know what's fun about this part of the season is everybody, to some degree, has scouted themselves. Some people well, some people not. And because of that, they've scouted others. And because of that, you start getting new plays and formations and some really cool stuff, man. So this is the best part of the season. Not to mention the playoffs coming up, but before the playoffs, all right? For teams in contention, even those that are not, you get interesting approaches. Cowboy Wrestlers, I can't take... What do you say? He says, what made a difference? Do you think the game with the Jets would have been in Oakland? No, I don't. I don't think it would have made a difference at all. Given the way given the Jets game plan, it would not have made any difference at all. You have to remember, there weren't a lot of people at the Jets game. Okay? Mark Eyeline says, I would take Rob Ryan over Gunther. Interesting. Eric P. says, we need to be watching the Steelers and the Bills this weekend for wild card. Great point. Rene Bizon Flores, welcome. He says, call me crazy. But I think Gruden still has some stuff offensively he hasn't shown us because he considers this still a rebuilding year until we get better personnel and experience. I don't agree with that because at some point, if you think that, then you've admitted that you're not a good coach. Because at what point do you have the right people? Okay? Think about what it sets up. It allows you to say, perpetually, I don't have the right people. As opposed to, okay, what happens if it clicks? Then you had the right people. Maybe you had the wrong people, but you stumbled upon something that you didn't know was going to work, and it worked. So you look like a genius, but in point of fact, you got lucky because you yourself didn't know what the blank you were doing. You just got lucky. There's a lot of that out there, folks, okay? So my point is this. The future's now. If he hasn't done it now, I don't want to hear about this waiting. You're a coach. You have this ability to take 11 people on offense and defense and mold game plans around them and make change. Do it. There's no law stopping him. Do it. Okay? So, Cowboy says, I can't win the Jets beat us badly, the Jets, for God's sakes. Yeah. The Jets that, hey, Cowboy Wrestler, get on NFL Game Pass and look at how the Jets have evolved. They have changed dramatically as a team. The Jets over the first 6 weeks of this season are not the Jets over the past 6 weeks of the season. So, Rob Iman says no on Rob Iman. Eric P. says, all good, they beat the Cowboys. Roland Dub says, I would take Dennis Allen over Gunther. Bible says, I think the question is, you have to remember something, that a lot of defensive coordinators are only going to do what you want them to do. Okay? So, if you want them to play a 3-4, let's take Todd Bowles and the Bucs. Todd Bowles was the defensive coordinator when Bruce Arians was the coach in Arizona. He was known for a 3-4. He brought that to the Buccaneers. But the Buccaneers, under Bowles, was shockingly bad this year. They made a wholesale number of changes, not just in terms of personnel, but approach. A lot of the time, prior to 3 games ago, their defensive ends were standing up. But look at them now. The Bucs have their linemen down, getting leverage, rushing the passer. So it's no surprise that they got 6 sacks over the Falcons. It's no surprise they were more effective the week before. Because people like to talk about Jameis Winston and his turnovers. But what people forget is that the reason why he has those turnovers, Jameis, is because he's being asked to throw deep. And he's being asked to play in an offense that, in terms of its approach overall, is antiquated. All right? It's not using formation to build, to bend and stretch the defense. And what it's doing is the Arians approach, as it's been applied with the Bucs, is actually leading defenders to the ball to pick them off. So Arians is not doing Jameis any favors. What offsets it is the fact that because the patterns are so deep, he's throwing and he's racking up more yards than ever before. And when he connects, boy, he connects big time. The payoff is huge. So it's what he's designed for Winston is a high risk, high reward offense. Okay? But it's changed. But the whole point is, when you have an offense like that, you have to have a really good defense to get you out of trouble. The Buccaneers are finally fashioning that kind of defense. But they had to give up some of their philosophy to get there. So we'll see how it works down the stretch. They got 2 wins in a row. The question is, hey, can they run the table? Who knows? All right. So Cowboy Wrestler says, I think the Raiders are saving all the good stuff for Vegas. Nope. And Eric P says, go Browns to beat the Steelers and Cowboys to beat the Bills. John Acala says, what do you think about Brinson Buckner getting defensive coordinator if Gunther gets fired? I'm not interested in Paul Gunther getting fired, okay? Because again, this is an issue of self-scouting. I like what Gunther has brought to the table. I like that the defenders are not standing up a lot. I like the fact that it's a pressure game. It just needs an adjustment here and there. And that's the difference, okay? Overall, against the run, the defense has been markedly better this year than last. And it still has some strides to go. But again, I believe the difference between here and here is in game preparation. And that's on more than just Gunther. That's the head coach. That's the analytical staff. That's what they asked the analytical staff to do. That's what the analytical staff has to do with the analytical staff, with what the analytical staff brings in terms of materials. All that goes together. That's a beast unto itself. That's the Raiders' difference right now. Rob Iman says, my choice is to replace Paul Gunther with Raheem Morris. Yeah. Michael Ireland says, again, my question is, what kind of defense do you want? Because I like what Gunther has done. Michael says he agrees with Raheem Morris. Except that here's the thing. Raheem is with the Falcons, and he was brought back to his position. Let's see what happens there, but didn't really work against the Bucs. Of course, that's just 1 game, so it's not fair, is it? Hey, Sean Watson, how you doing? Go Bears. Go Cal. Woo! That's right. That's right. See if I missed any comments up here. Bible study says the only bad thing about this game against the Chiefs is when we play them is they're coming off a bye. Yeah. Then we've got Cowboy Wrestler says, isn't Morris the old Tampa Bay coach? Yeah, he is. But see, now he's with the Bucs as an assistant. And Eric P says they need to put Jacobs out in space more screenplays. Yeah, they do. And they really do. But also they need to just throw him the ball in the flat as well. Rob Iman says Stanford needs to make coordinator changes this offseason. Yeah, you know what was really confusing to me? I'll tell you one thing about Stanford is the alums are starting to come down on David Shaw. One alum texted me. He was just lividly pissed. I could not understand, and I'm sure there's a reason for why I probably just haven't read about it. I have to ask, but I can't understand why Stanford got away from that ogre style of blocking where they were, low down in the trenches and mowing people off the line of scrimmage and assisting on the running, all that, right? They just got away from that. And I thought that was Stanford's personality. This year, it looked to me like Stanford was in search of a personality. John Acala says, what's the latest on Vegas Stadium after it got rained on? More rain in forecast. Yeah. The latest, as I'm able to observe it, is they still worked on the curtain wall on this side. On the I-15 side, that black sheathing is expanded. However, they haven't done the other side. What's interesting about this entire project is they only show you the good things. They don't show you the other side on the Polaris end, where you can see exactly how far they have to go with this thing, all right? But, yeah, more rain is coming, but also snow. Snow is coming to Las Vegas Valley. Snow is coming to Las Vegas Valley. By the way, Rob Iman says Cal is likely going to the Sun Bowl. I met Coach Wilcox over the weekend at Kingfish. Great guy. I love Coach Wilcox. We met him through Mike Silver, my longtime friend Well, we go back a long way. Wow. Now he's got daughters and sons and great family, and I've known his wife. I've known his wife as long as I've known him. Wow. How about that? Going back to 1987. That's how far back we all go. 1987. Wow. Bible study says Denver's getting snow. Hey, you guys got a new city manager, by the way. Cowboy says 49ers Ravens should be a beauty this Sunday. How about Falcons Saints? Eric P says I'm staying positive. Eric P says Ravens will get when I say Raiders steal a game. I hope that the Raiders Jets game was really just the exercise on the Raiders just mailing it in terms of preparation, and that maybe they were looking a bit too hard at Kansas City. I doubt it, but it could be. It could be. But the trouble is look, they fooled around. They got clobbered by the Jets. So let's play a game here. How if I were let's take let's answer the hard question, shall we? The hard question is John Collins says Raiders still negotiations with Coliseum play. Yeah, they have an option. That's correct. Keith is correct. They have an option, but what I was told is that if they exercise the option, that's $10.5 million they have to pay, and I can tell you the Raiders don't want to do that. So the Raiders are trying to get that down. They have, and the clock is ticking until April 1st to make up their mind. Snow is coming to the Las Vegas Valley. Wind and rain are coming to Las Vegas Valley, more of it. And so the degree to which that thing gets waterlogged and then snowing and frozen and all that, this next few months is going to be very telling. That's going to take us all the way into March with that kind of weather. You know that, don't you? All the way into March. So that's why, if I were them, I would just simply bite the bullet and say, maybe we can engineer like a half season in Oakland and a half season in Las Vegas, and just make it easier on themselves. Pay the extra $1 because it's a little over where they said it was going to be in terms of finishing, and just get the dang on thing done right. So Michael says Preston Brown hopefully makes it this weekend as middle linebacker, which would be a great thing to see. I'd love to see that. Eric P says I think if you saw Gruden, I'm sure he's on fire on everyone. He doesn't look happy. Eric P says, yep, this team will be ready. Well, it's not a matter. John needs to just settle down and, just calm down, use his noggin. And when I say use his noggin, I mean ask himself the classic coaching question. What is it as a coach do I hate facing the most? And then do that thing, okay? In other words, if it's, oh, hey, I cannot stand a trick play or a halfback pass. Well, do that thing. Or if it's, I can't stand those situations where Bill Belichick will have one of his guys go standing out there, between plays, tying his shoe, and then like a wide receiver, and then the defensive people lose sight of the fact that the guy is standing there, and then the next play is ran, and nobody's standing over him, and next thing you know, hey, he's wide open for a touchdown. Patriots do that sort of thing, So John should just basically say, okay, what are the 6 things that I fear most in a game if I'm the opposing coach? And do those 6 things. 6. Keep it manageable. A manageable number. All right? Like, for example, on defense. What creeps the willies out of me is not so much a double A gap blitz, But double A gap with, all right, but with a rover back coming off the weak side, no tight end, like that. Okay, so you have this and then that. Don't be afraid to pressure. So, Michael Eyeline says, missing your, Eric P says, even on Carr's face listing, the players are not happy about the Jets game. Who would be? You have to be a great cornerback. You have to throw it out of your head, go forward. But learn from it. Because other teams, I guarantee you, other teams are watching that tape, not just me, that video, and they're gleaning the same idea. Among the 30 people on here, it may be somebody representing the Chiefs. Hey, that guy Zinni talks a lot. Let's hear what he has to say. Or maybe one of you are members of the Chiefs coaching staff and you're peppering with questions. You never know these days. All right? You never know. Just saying. Eric P. Rader says, I got that one. Michael says, Keelan Doss gets his chance in the slot. Oh, that brings me to the question you asked me about. I think it was Cowboy Wrestler asked me about Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow was emerging to be what Julian Edelman was to the Patriots. And the Bengals game, for example, the Raiders had Hunter Renfrow inside slot, and he comes from inside slot, he bellies out, and then toward the corner of the end zone, he was wide open. Touchdown. It was really a brilliant use of bunch formation and option route. Because I'm thinking that had to be an option. He started inside, but the way he ran the route, it looked like he had the ability to cut it outside and then go to the corner. That's precisely what he did, as opposed to going across field. He was wide open. So what they lose is having somebody who's had that assignment for the year who executed it very, very well. And now the question is, why did I pause the way that I did? Because they could very well have, knowing John, someone else able to run that pattern or that assignment that way. Because John insists on his receivers knowing more than one spot, right? So let's hope that's the case, and Renfrow is not, and his assignments are not so unique that the Raiders find themselves in a pickle. Be interesting to find out. Could Keelan Doss do that? Yeah, I think so. Could they have Waller, the tight end, do some of the same thing? Absolutely. It's a matter of shifting of, assignments. Eric P says, yep, I'm from 831. I'll be at the Raiders' next home game. Cowboy Russia says, about to be a lot of empty seats at the Rams' next home game at the LA Coliseum. Terrible game by them tonight. Bible Study says, haven't found a new city manager yet in Brighton. But now because 70% recalled our mayor in Brighton, thank you for the clarification, we have to look for a new mayor now too. What's the deadline on that? I'm curious. Brighton recalled its mayor. Why did you guys recall it? Was the water problem or something like that? It was an interesting story. Eric P says, have you been out there? Here's in. Yeah, I was there, just got back. You don't watch my YouTube videos, man. All you got to do is go back, look at the YouTube videos. You can see I was back home. Doggone it. You can see the car that I rented. You can see that I got smashed. I got another car. All of what I did was right there. It's right here on YouTube, man. All you got to do is watch. It's also on Oakland News now. All you got to do is watch it. It's all there. All there. Eric says, I missed it. Eric P says, sorry, we should have hooked up. Yeah. I had, but I'll be honest, Eric, that was, last week was me trying to see, when I didn't have work to do, trying to see as many friends from high school as I could you just sort of, because people would say, like my friend Hillary, oh, you got to get together when we get back. And I hadn't seen her son in years, and so we did that, right? And by the way, when we met at Cafe 817 Washington in Old Oakland, in downtown Oakland, go there. Emily and Scott Goldenberg are the owners. They have great coffee. They have great lunch. They have great salads. Go there. Tell them Zinni Abraham sent you, please. It's right in the middle of Old Oakland. If you have to pay a parking ticket down at 880 Washington, guess what? You're you're not far away. Is it 80 Washington? Yeah. Anyway, you're not far away. Or if you... Did anybody go to Wizard World, by the way? I went to Wizard World. See, you didn't see my Wizard World videos from Wizard World Oakland. I have videos with Katrina Law from Hawaii 5-0. I've got Kato Kalin. Kato Kalin called me James Bond. I think he was seeing... Yeah, the Kato Kalin. That's right. Wow. The sucky thing about the way media is going is you have all these celebrities with names who are just struggling to find their niche. And it's both an opportunity for people like me in the business, but it's also unfortunate because, they don't always get what they're worth. Eric P says, so Zen, what's your score for the Chiefs game? Haven't figured that out yet. Cowboy Wrestler says, I went to a sports bar yesterday to watch the Raiders game. Never again. Which sports bar did you go to? Cowboy Wrestler. Just curious. Maybe I can recommend a better one. Let me know where you went. I don't want to say the name because you might say, oh, that was the one I went to. Let me know where you went. My score for the Chiefs game. Again, a Bible study says mayor fired the city manager, Brighton, Colorado, for finding $70 million in excess water funds from overcharges over a 10-year period. Our city manager was basically a whistleblower, and so the mayor fired the whistleblower, so in turn, they got rid of the mayor. I got that right? That's what it sounds like. Pretty cool. I got to read more about that. I got to read. Hey, Bible study, you should run for mayor. No joke. Why not? Cool. Hey, man, run for mayor. You never know. Surprise yourself. My mom was saying I should run for the mayor of Oakland. I'm not doing that. Because as long as I have to help her, I feel smarmy just talking about it. No, not at all. All right, folks, it is 1:36 in the morning in the East, and it's about time where I turn into a pumpkin. Thank you. I'll be back tomorrow, and Bible study says now we have a forensics audit being done right now. Eric P says I would vote for you, son. I appreciate that. I just want to get, you know what I want to do? I want to build my community here because it's really nice to, like, for example, when I was back, you run into people and they watch your videos and they watch what goes on here and they say kind things, and that means a lot to me. So I want to deal with what is in my face. I want to take care of my clients. I want to get more clients. I want to incorporate this business the right way because I've done it the wrong way, Lord knows, enough times. Not specifically with this, but with others. I just want to get the simple things out of the way, make my mom happy, keep her comfortable in her twilight years, Get married, find the right woman. Because Lord knows I've been in a lot of situations that just didn't work. So now I'm focusing on my mom, and that's that. I don't know how everybody else does it, but that's the way that I do it. All right. So, see you tomorrow. Good night, and live long and prosper wherever you are. And Go Bears! John Collins says, I think Mad Max Crosby is going to develop into a good pass rusher. I think he already is. It's the run game. He's got to, get his leverage better. Good night, everybody. But I think Buckner's working with him on that. Good night, everybody. I'll see you later.